ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Empower Hour. Mike King, Tiffany Greene is here with us with our cadre, a plethora of talent. All right, so Tiffany Greene, tell folks who you are and what you do. Hashtag.
Empower People. So
Yeah.
I'm Tiffany Joy Greene. I'm the founder of Empower People, and Empower People is an organization that provides education, connection, and support to mission and purpose-driven leaders to drive positive impact and ergo, empower people. And you can find us, I know what you're going to ask, so let me get it in. Find us on empowerpeople.org, MPWRpeople.org, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And don't forget, like Mike said, hashtag empower people.
Alrighty, I always ask where you can find people because it's nothing to have great information and no one knows where you are to come and find you. So, Kristen, welcome to the program, ma'am. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Kristen Seibert, and I am the Operations Director for Community Safety and Response Educators. You can find us at csrerva.com, and we teach CPR and advanced life support certifications to the community and to our critical care healthcare providers.
All righty, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the program. Our legal expert, John Rabil. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for the legal advice just a couple of minutes ago, keeping me out of legal jeopardy.
Maybe.
Jeopardy, Tiffany Greene, did you get that one?
Yes, I did.
Jeopardy.
And don't forget Double Jeopardy.
Or the Wheel of Fortune. All right, so John Rabil, please tell us who you are and what you do, sir.
Yeah, so I'm John Rabil. I own Entrepreneur Legal Advisors, or ELA, and so we're a law firm, works with small, mid-sized companies, typically acting as outside general counsel to help them navigate issues they may not be aware of and act as strategic advisors. You can find me online at elapractice.com or john@elapractice.com.
So, Counselor, you had said today is Wednesday. If I think that I need an attorney on Wednesday, when would you say I needed one?
Like a month ago, probably. Yeah, I think a lot of the trouble small businesses get in could be completely avoided if they were a little more proactive.
That's it. And one of the things, so yours is a subscription model, right? So we don't have to wait because sometimes there is a fear of calling the attorney. So this one right here, with your in-house counsel to help them like that.
Exactly.
Right. Good enough. Next up, we got my man Brian Kinzie. He is our HR guru. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning. Yep, my name is Brian Kinzie. My company is Tinker HR. We provide fractional HR support to nonprofits and small business here in the Richmond area. Be anything from helping organizations put together their first employee handbook, assistance with recruitment, retention, sticky employee situations, compliance, HR strategy, all those things that HR departments do for big companies, we do on a fractional basis for small organizations. So, yeah, that's what we're all about. Can be found at www.tinkerhr.com.
Brian Kinzie, so we just wrapped up Q1.
I just have to say, don't go tinkering around with your own HR. Hire Tink HR.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tiffany Greene, 2 shows nightly. She has been sitting on that one from month to month. She's getting some good use out because that is true. Don't fool around and tinker with it yourself. Call Tinker. All right, so Brian Kinzie, we just finished Q1. What's something that a person should do going into Q2 from an HR perspective?
They should probably be going back at this time and looking at the goals they set for their organization and their individuals in the organization, and making sure that those goals that they set back in December and January when it was a brand new year are still what they want their people to be working on, or if things have changed. If they've changed, they need to reset those expectations for everybody and let them know what the changes are. And if that list of goals has just kind of sat there and nothing's been done with them, then it's time to refocus everybody on those projects and items that they were trying to achieve. It's a really good time to go back and take a look at where the organization is headed and make sure everybody's all singing off the same page of the hymnal. So,
In other words, take a peek under the hood to make sure everything is running smoothly.
and that's when they should call Stacie.
And you know what?
When it's not.
And that is the reason why I went to Stacie. If you've grown up around a gas station garage, you know something about looking under hoods and making sure things run smoothly. It is our operations expert, Stacie Briley Goodman of Origamic Solutions. The lady I asked about, paper, the use of paper, and and what exactly origami is. And I've been schooled. I'm very cultured now. So it is the practice of cutting paper and folding it in.
No
Ladies
cutting.
and gentlemen, Stacie Briley Goodman here with Origamic Solutions.
We're not cutting. No destruction.
We're folding.
Folding. We're incrementally changing through folds, not through cuts. I don't like being the angel of death. I come in and try to help make sure that we repurpose rather than remove.
All right. And Stacie Briley Goodman, she is with me, and we talk a lot of times about the evolution of organizations, businesses, cadence, things of that nature. As I'm going to ask you the same thing I just asked Brian. Q2 is upon us. What do we need? What do we need to do from an operations standpoint?
Depending on, as you know, your maturity level, right? You may be looking at different things. So if you're new, you're still doing basically what Brian did. We're looking at the goals and objectives. Are we continuing to move towards those? If you are more of an intermediate, a little bit more mature company where you've been able to start collecting data around common measurements, then you want to start looking at those measurements and seeing how you're performing, and if there are any adjustments that need to be made. And you're just looking at, what I like to do is take a kind of the wheel of life, but I call it the wheel of business, right? And you're looking at all the different elements and taking an assessment of how healthy am I? Are things working good? Where do I need to put my attention for the next quarter? Just because you have goals doesn't mean that you're going to be progressing, right? Because goals sometimes take a long time. And James Clear with Atomic Habits has a quote that says, you won't rise to the level of your goals, you'll fall to the level of your systems. So you want to make sure that your systems are performing and moving you towards your goals, but you're constantly reviewing the performance of your people, your processes and your tools collectively working together.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Empower Hour. Tiffany Green, Mike King here, our cadre of stars. Kristen, what are some, when you tell people about your organization, what are some of the things that people are shocked about that they don't know that you do, but people really need to know that?
I think one of the things that most people are surprised by is that we offer AED training. So a lot of folks see AEDs on the wall. They're in a white box. They look like fire extinguishers that you don't want to touch. They hope they never have to use one or see anything about it. And it's a little scary on the wall. And one of the free trainings that we offer is the opportunity to take it off the wall, unzip it, look at it. We have trainers that we can turn on and let you know how they work and how to use them, so that in an emergency, you're not touching that device for the very first time or even afraid to get it off the wall.
So something bad happens and everyone stands around, the device is on the wall, and no one knows how to use it.
That's typically what happens. And for every minute in a cardiac arrest, you lose 10% of survival.
Wow.
There's your sobering statistic for Wednesday morning. Every minute
you know what,
that you
ma'am?
stand around, that person is losing 10% of their rate of survival.
Tiffany Green, we'd just like to thank Kristen for coming on with that sobering thought as we kick off Wednesday. But it is important because someone needs to know. So how do people engage you, Kristen, to get involved so that we are not standing around trying to figure out who knows how to do this thing?
Absolutely. You can call our office or you can fill out an interest form on our website to let us know that that's a specific training that you're looking for. Any of our any of our classroom classes that we teach here in our facility are all available for registration online. So we hold a plethora of classes here, but we'll also come on site to a church or a business or a social organization and do both hands-only CPR training and AED training.
Alrighty, Tiffany Greene. Well, this morning, I know sometimes that you have topics that you would want to cover.
No.
And then shocking. Because Tiffany Greene, she is the princess of purpose. And we learned last week, we talked about purpose alignment. And purpose is all through the organization. It touches on the HR aspect. It touches on organizational skills. It also touches on possibly keeping us out of harm's way from a legal side. Tiffany, as I said, we're doing Q2. What is new and exciting in your world for us for this month?
I think for Q2, from my perspective, a lot of the small businesses and nonprofits have found themselves kind of disconnected from their overall strategy, vision, purpose. And so they're feeling that they're, very focused on the tasks and they're in the reactionary mode, or as I like to say, they're in the weeds. So they start, this is a critical time. January, they're like, I got this. I know where we're going. And they had the big picture in mind. Now already by Q2, that perspective tends to get lost. So there are ways to keep that front and center. And the best way to do that is to actually take every task you're doing and tie it back to your strategy and your purpose. If you keep it front and center, it will remain front and center. But sometimes what happens is an owner or a leader will say, we can't be focusing on what our big picture is. I got to worry about today. And I say, well, if you're always busy putting out the fires will never stop, right? And before you know it, the infrastructure is going to be gone. So the best way of handling your business is always focusing on how to avoid the fire, right? And how do you avoid fires? Is by focusing on your purpose.
Okay.
It's too quiet.
It is quiet. That's what happens when you drop a nugget of knowledge. So, Kristen, welcome. Do you have any questions for our panel there? That's I guess that's important in your organization.
Well, since I am the bearer of big news on a Wednesday morning, I'll drop another one. What happens on April 1st when you sit down to do your first quarter review and you find yourself in a vastly different place than you thought you would be? You had set goals, you had a great outlook, you have a plan, you've been working with Brian and you've been working with Stacie and you're good and you're going, and April 1st comes and your landscape doesn't look anything like you expected it. How do you pivot
welcome to
or
the
just
program.
stay positive?
You definitely came to the right place. This panel of all stars. All right, so Stacie, let's start with you.
So that depends on what you look like. If you look to the better and things are really super great, then you throw a party and congratulate yourselves and keep moving. Oh, hang on, my computer's decided to be weird. If you're not where you wanted to be, then from an ops perspective, we start looking at root cause. So there's a few different tools that you can use. The 5 why would be the first one that I would probably look into to try to figure out why you're not where you need to be. And when you do that and use that tool, you have to be very honest with yourself. It's not about blame and it's not about pointing fingers. It's all about really getting into what are the contributing factors of why you didn't get there. There could be some, situations you didn't expect things to occur. I've been in where, financially I wasn't where I thought I was going to be because my vendors didn't pay me in a timely manner, or my customers did, not my vendors, but my customers. I've been not where I wanted to be operationally, mainly because I bit off more than I could chew, right? I just set my goals a little bit higher than what was realistic with the resources that I had available, those types of things. So that's where you have to be very vulnerable and very honest with yourself, and then give grace. Business is it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to hit every goal every time. So you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, not enough to let yourself so off the hook, but enough to keep moving forward. So to your point, stay positive. Absolutely. If negative's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to contribute more to not meeting where you want to be, but maybe breaking things down a little bit more tactical, measurable. Sometimes that's where I find a lot of companies I work with, they set where they want to be, but they haven't broken it down to make sure it's feasible, or either it's not clear enough in communication to everyone to make sure that they got where they wanted to go. They made interpretations and they made assumptions. So those would be the things about vulnerability, clarity, and really taking a hard look at why you're not there.
I'd like to add on to what Stacie said, because when you said that, Stacie, I always say this, you said it in a different way, but a goal without a plan is just a wish. So if you're sitting on April 1st and you're like, wow, we didn't reach our Q1 goal. Did you have a plan? And was that plan broken up? Like if you look at like a sales plan, you don't manage to the revenue, you manage to the activity, and the activity is managed to the daily activity. And it's much easier to get to a goal if you break it down as far as you can, like Stacie was saying, and that's planning that. So you have your big strategy plan. I always say this, I like to say it this way, and if you know me, like this is not going to shock you, but I'd say, strategies have plans, and then plans should procreate, because you got to keep breaking it down further and further. And so I would be looking at it from that standpoint. Did you get really down to like almost like a daily structure, daily to-do list to help you reach that goal?
And the people that should be doing that are the ones who are quote unquote accountable. So when we do what we call RACEs, which is roles, responsibilities, responsibility, if you're the responsible party, you are responsible for executing those tasks in that plan that Tiffany referenced. But the accountable person is the person who is accountable for the overall outcome, right? They're the way the buck stops. And if you didn't meet your goals, it's the accountable party who needs to be leading those conversations, because the responsible individuals were probably doing what they thought they were supposed to be doing based on their processes, based on communications given to them. So that's where you have to start, kind of move up with the decision makers and make sure that the communication, the plans, everything was clear.
This is where I start to get into multiple personality disorder, because my accountable person has to sit down with my responsible person and say, did I make myself clear? Well, I thought I was doing what you told me to, but I didn't do what I needed to, but I didn't get the results. So then I end up with people start to think I'm a little weird because you're the same conversation with myself.
Right? I'm having a conversation with myself. But as a small business owner, you are your chief everything operation officer, right? So you have to be able to have those kinds of conversations because when you grow your team, now you're really going to have conversations with somebody else. So
one of the things that Tiffany, really quickly, Stacie, when you talk about the 5 whys, how often do people think that they're asking the tough questions, but when they tell that they're not, because they really don't want the truth? They think they do, but they're not asking the really hard 5 why questions.
When they stop at why number 2. Well, why did you do this? Well, it was this way. Okay, well, why do you think that happened? Well, it was this. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know usually means I really don't want to go there because I probably know, but I'm gonna have to be very, truthful about something I'm not ready to talk about. Or they may not really understand. They may truly not know. And that's where it's helpful to have a third party to do the 5 whys. It's very difficult to do that with your own self, right? Your multiple personalities inside yourself. Because sometimes you have to admit, I need more education in this, right? Or this is not my strong suit and I need to get assistance. So some people are comfortable with that and others are not. There's still a psychology component and operations because we are dealing with humans.
So John Rabil, on the legal side, is that sort of the same idea of digging to talk to business owners? They want the truth, but the truth may be buried under a couple different whys.
Yeah, it may be something similar. A lot of times, I think what happens with businesses and lawyers is lawyers become the party of no. In particular, a lot of lawyers don't have any business experience, so they skew everything towards the law. And so it's always, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. As opposed to digging a little bit deeper to see maybe, all right, what are you really trying to accomplish here? And what might we be able to do, or how might we be able to structure this to still get you where you want to go and make sure you're still protecting yourself?
So, Counselor, are there any landmark decisions or things that people need to look for that happened in Q1 that we're going into Q2? Is anything on fire that we need to know about?
Yeah, I think the beneficial ownership interest BOI filing is still out there. I keep running into people who haven't heard of it and don't know about it. And time frame for filing differs depending on when you started your company, but I think businesses should be aware of that. The other big thing that happened is the change in the rule for independent contractor versus employee classification. In one sense, it continues to be the same. Everybody should be an employee. All right, I see Brian's laughing.
You say Brian is shaking his head. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk.
But I do think it's just increasingly becoming more difficult to justify independent contractors in a lot of situations. So businesses need to be aware of that and paying attention to how they're bringing people on, how they're classifying employees versus contractors, and how they're managing all of these roles.
Brian Kinzie, the floor. Wait. We
Just want to let you know, we do have a question on Facebook. So after Brian responds, we should take that question.
So Brian, John Rabil teed it up for you, sir. In the past, we had danced around the idea of what was an independent contractor, what was an employee. The waters were murky. Are they any murkier, or did it clear up, sir?
I don't think they've been that murky, really. Most people just don't want to acknowledge what's actually happening. Most of it's based around degree of control the person has over their day-to-day activities. Do they have multiple clients? Or are they out there looking for other business? But a lot of times people who are an independent contractor only are working for one company and they're doing a core part of that company's business. That's an employee. You're telling that person what to do, how to do their day. That's an employee. If it looks like an employee, smells like an employee, talks like an employee, it's an employee. And there are a few situations where it gets a little bit gray, but overall it's fairly straightforward. And obviously having employees has tax implications and things like that. But I think it's a lot easier and safer for companies simply to call an employee and not try to play games with taxes. I mean, if you remember the stories about the 60 or 80,000 IRS agents that the government was planning to hire, well, they're not trying to go out and enforce new laws. They're just trying to go out and enforce what's already on the books. So one of the areas I'm sure they're going to be looking at is independent contractors. They don't have to go out looking for anything new. They can just go out and look for what's already taking place and get some money. So you don't want to be the business that's the poster child for the government making a case for having been misbehaving. So
in other words, Brian Kinzie, you do not want to be the one standing in the middle of an open field, waving your arms, saying, "Hey, look at me."
no. That's it. If you've ever seen like that antelope at the end of the herd, and then the lions come and take it out, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So, you don't want to be that antelope. So,
Yeah, you do not want to be in the back of the pack. You want to be in the middle.
yep, nice and safely in the middle, but especially when you're dealing with something
Tiffany, you said we have a question over in Facebook land.
Yes, we do. And we know this person. Carol.
Shout out to Carol Coffin out there. She is our friend from the Down Syndrome Association.
That's right.
She's a
So
super volunteer.
she's awesome. So it's a little bit I got to read. So everybody pay attention. I'll try to go slower than I normally do.
Okay.
So she says, our organization is in a different place this year as we search for a new executive director to lead us even further than our last amazing executive director. We have an amazing interim ED, a hardworking, mission-oriented, great board, and our amazing staff team is positive and staying focused on our mission and doing a great job with that. But we are excited to find an amazing new leader to pursue that purpose. Any suggestions on staying focused in this circumstance? And she also says, we're putting it out in the universe. We are recruiting for a new executive director, so we would love to hear from great applicants.
And Tiffany Greene, we do know that amazing organization. Shout out to Virginia Down Syndrome Association, or the Down Syndrome Association of Virginia.
That's right.
That's who they are, yes. And they were just in studio. They were doing some amazing things. So if you are a nonprofit leader or a for-profit leader, doesn't matter, because Tiffany Greene teaches me it don't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Good business is good business. All right, panel. Any ideas on what they should be looking for, or any ideas or suggestions?
So I'll start with this one because I had another potential client that was in another nonprofit in a similar situation where they had just gotten their new ED for a little while back. But while you're in this transition, if you've been successful, going forward, is to stay the course. Don't make major changes while you're in the midst of trying to make an executive director, replacement. That you've already been successful. You should have your operations and your programs in place. Just stay the course. Once the new ED is brought in, then you can start to make, evaluate if you need to make adjustments, because from what I've seen, though EDs are responsible for overseeing, the success, the performance of the organization, they have different ways of doing it. So some are more rigid and staying on top of stuff. Some are more relaxed in their approaches. But what you don't want to do is make 3 changes. So your original who left, your interim who is trying to stay steady and stay the course, but may have new ideas to bring to the table for consideration. That's fine. Bring them to the table, document them, maybe consider them, but don't take action on them yet. Wait till the new person comes in, and then get things stabilized from an HR perspective, from your team, creating those relationships around them before you make any major changes.
Stacie Briley Goodman, how can people find information out there about Origamic Solutions? You
can find us at Origamic. It's ORIGAMIC, not origami, but OrigamicsSolutions.com. You can find us on LinkedIn at Origamic Solutions, at Stacie Briley Goodman, or Timothy Pisani.
Yeah, shout out to my man Tim Bazzani out there. He's
Boy.
he is speaking English. He is putting orders into I guess order information into English. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Processes sometimes scare small business owners. Because as Tiffany said, we're putting out fires. But if I don't take care of the processes in place, I'm always going to be putting out fires.
True.
Hey, Kristen, real quickly,
Oh, wait, Mike,
Yeah.
Brian
Yeah.
wanted to say something to answer the question.
Oh, there you go.
First, I wanted to say ditto to what Stacie said. So, secondly, I think that during this time, and Stacie touched on this a little bit, that communication with the staff that's still on board is really, really critical. Having put that interim executive director in place is a really good step, but because one of the things that happens with a nonprofit or even a for-profit, when the leader leaves the organization, everybody's wondering, who do I go to with my questions? And what is my level of authority to make decisions now that I don't have this person to go to? Putting that interim director person kind of helps solve that, because everybody knows, oh, I just go to the interim director. But that needs to be communicated through the organization as far as who people need to go to, because the ED, a lot of times, especially in small nonprofits, is really kind of down in the weeds doing some of the hands-on work also. And there needs to have been a plan put in place for how all the balls are going to stay up in the air while this person is gone. If duties are being reassigned, everybody in the organization needs to know, okay, ED is gone, this person's going to do X, this person's going to do Y now, this person's going to do Z. And if you're able to get that in place, and like Stacie said, don't make changes. This is a horrible time to try to change things. Let the new ED, when they get them on board and figure out how things are working, let them make changes. But if you can communicate that with staff, that will allay at least part of their fears. And also just be cognizant that anytime somebody's getting a new boss in the building, it's a stressful time for the organization. Even if people are excited about the potential for change always causes stress. So just be aware that for the employees, this can be a tough time for them when they're going through something like this. So be extra nice to your staff people during a change like this.
Yeah,
it is also important to have a dynamic board as well.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Carol Coffin and all the board of directors who are out there, who are down, who keep things going, keep things moving while change is happening. Because it's funny when change happens or change in leadership, where a bunch of things pop up. I think because they took a lot of that knowledge with them. That's the conversation we've had with Stacie before, which is transferring information and knowledge over so that when a person leaves, that knowledge doesn't go with them, because now all of a sudden they took all the secrets with them, because they were the go. Look at Kristen smiling, yeah, shaking her head. Yes, that there is that person, the go-to person in an organization. And okay, Kristen, let's talk about how do we decentralize that person in an organization? How does that one person stop being the go-to person for all the things that happen?
Oh, I think that if I had the answer to that, I might actually become a millionaire, because that would solve a lot of business problems all over the world. Stacie knows that best, probably. The technique that I found in my previous employment has just been to constantly download the information out of somebody's head, and to create redundant resources. If you hear somebody say, I can't go on vacation because there's nobody to do X, there's no coverage for Y, that's your first major red flag that says, hey, something's wrong in the organization, and you've got too much on one person's plate, and no redundancy to cover that. I sort of grew up with a hit by the bus manual concept, and
Yeah.
Go
Unless you
mom.
live in VDOT, it's bad when you get hit by a bus on
Well, that's
14th and
true.
Broad.
The idea is that every night when you leave your office, the information that you need or somebody needs to walk back into your office the next morning should be sitting on the corner of your desk. It's sort of a morbid outlook, and yet it is a wonderful principle to make sure that you've closed off the things that need closed off. You don't walk out with a call sheet of dangling details that need to be handled, that you stay on top of things, and that your coworkers or someone knows how to get to that book that says, hey, here are the things that need picked up tomorrow morning. So it's very difficult and takes a lot of discipline. But if you can do that, everything in the organization sort of fosters and grows from that.
Yeah, and I'll
So,
add to that with what she was saying. So one of the opportunities, we talked about firefighting in this episode, right? When you have those situations, and to Kristen's point, if they can't go on vacation, we got a big problem, because it's like a week and you can't survive without them. And I have been in that situation, but we're going to be talking about it, with the chamber, but succession planning. So that's not something that people want to think about, but it is important, especially for like these nonprofits where you may have, adjustments that happen with people coming in and out, and it takes a long time to backfill those executive roles. Sometimes up to 6 months, could be longer. Those you need to have already thought about if I have to be out, let's say I got hit by a bus, I got injured, right? I got sick unexpectedly, or somebody's going to leave for a new opportunity, right? How are you going to redistribute that? How are you going to reduce that level of anxiety? So that if you don't have an ops manual, if you don't have a succession plan and an employee handbook, those 3 documents are probably your most critical components, because they tell you who does what when. And if somebody leaves, this is how it's going to be redistributed. And I would say the other piece is a contingency plan, business continuity plan. And that is, if you lose power and you don't have computers and you're a retail shop, what do? How do you keep business going? You move to paper, right? You go old school. But there are situations in certain companies where those plans have to be laid out ahead of time to reduce the anxiety, to keep the businesses going. So there's a few cornerstones that you would want to have in play.
On the mic, one second, because I got one here now. On the mic, Tiffany Greene, the Empower Hour. We got the squad, the superhero squad here. Okay, so Tiffany Greene, it may be hard to believe that I got a few miles on me. I've been around the block a time or two. And Kristen had just said, and Stacie had said about we're getting hit by a bus, or we have to make sure that the processes go from one person to another, delegation of the information, because I have to have everything tidied up before I leave for today. Okay, I want to go around and just take a survey. We're talking about entrepreneurs. I'm the one-man shop. It is me. How long do you guys, in the amount of days or weeks, do you think that a business owner think that their business can survive without them actively doing something? Jason, I'm going to go first. I say 48 hours. Brian Kinzie's laughing right there. He's like, I think that if you are not, a lot of business owners think if you don't do something in 48 hours, the wheels are going to come off and we're going to be broken down on the side of the road. Tiffany Greene, please, you are the princess of purpose. You're a bubbly person. Please, what is your time frame that you think the business could survive without the business owner actively taking a part in it?
It depends on the business, but it also depends. I mean, a business owner should be able to step away for a whole summer.
We're not talking about should. That's the Canadian in you, ma'am.
Well, no, my point is, what the biggest problem is for most for a lot of business owners, not all, of course, not all, but a lot of them, is they don't trust their team to carry out the processes, even if they have been created.
I don't have a team. It's just me.
Again,
we're solopreneurs.
So let's use Mike as the guest. We're going to now advise Mike King on how he could step away from his business. Stacie, it looks like
Ladies
you
and gentlemen,
wanted
we'd
to
like
say
to thank you
something
for
real quick.
tuning in. This program is now over.
And once again, we need to be truthful with ourselves. No.
No, true. We're too close to Easter. We don't need too much truth here. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. So Tiffany, I am at your disposal.
So how are all your so for you have airtime that you need to fill, what, Monday through Friday, a minimum of how many hours?
So 2 hours on air, but that requires maybe 10, maybe 15 hours altogether of connecting with people to cover those 10 hours that I'm on air.
Okay. And what else goes on in the back end of that? What do you have to do outside of that?
There is scheduling, and sometimes there are some snafus. Stacie Briley Goodman, Tiffany Joy. Yeah, sometimes there's scheduling. There is the sales aspect of what I do. I got it because I don't work for the radio station. I have to sell sponsorships and advertising, so that has to be done. It is what it talked about with Stacie as well, which is the back end operation, the processes, all those things. In reality, the one time that I can't do those things is when I'm on air talking. And that's what people see. So I'm on air talking, and all those other things that need to be done can't be done.
So that's one of the opportunities to look at. So you're not even in a position where you're asking to take 48 hours off, right? Which you greatly deserve, but you have to keep those back end processes going. We were talking about assistance and things like that, because what you didn't mention, which is for me is of high value, right? Is that you have to post them up on Facebook, the videos and stuff up on Facebook and on LinkedIn. The network that you have has, tremendous value. And so that's where you start to look at, well, if Mike wanted to step away, is there somebody who can go into the office and do the recordings for them? Because not all of the people that come in are you on air with 100% of them. Some of them run their own show, kind of run their own shows. Yes. Then the other part is, even if you're in the studio and with them and you're videotaping, can you hand off those videotapes to somebody else to put up on your social media for you while you're off going to the next event, doing your sales, doing other, items of that nature? There's certain elements, to your point, Mike King needs to do, right? Until you bring in someone to, like for me, I brought in Tim. Tim now represents my company. He goes out and does a lot of the sales and connections because he's just better at that. But you have to, you're a lot of that is about you going out to events you sponsor, those types of things. So you're looking for, can I step away to do more of those things and bring in somebody else to do some of the back end elements that are, don't require Mike to do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for this therapy session for Mike King Biz, because these people are closest to it and definitely understand. Okay, so Kristen, you clearly see that 48 hours is a stretch for me. That is being very optimistic. What's your view, ma'am? How long do you think it would be?
Well, I have to agree with a lot of what you said and what's been said. As a not entirely solopreneur, but as a woman who wears about 7 hats, I've had to figure out how to balance that and be able to take time away. And so 48 hours sounds reasonable. My goal is 4 days. And so I should be able to walk away from my business for 4 days and still have it up and running. I won't push a whole week, but I will at least push 4 days. And so my first foray has been to hire an answering service. And so I am now no longer tied to my phone. And so callers get a live person who answers the phone, has a list of some frequently asked questions, and can take a professional message for me, direct callers where they need to go if possible. So that was my first replacement, was somebody to manage my phone for me. And so then, to Stacie's point, I'm putting processes in place where I might be able to get some part-time help to be able to come in for those 4 days to just make sure that the wheels stay greased, the lights stay on, and they don't need my intervention in it. And I have to be able to trust that person for 4 days. But it's a lot of responsibility to trust somebody else to do those things. But my goal is 4 days. So we'll see.
But when you said 4 days, I'm like, why didn't you just go for a week? But I definitely understand. So did you find that it was too easy for people to get to you? Which one of the things I think that is for me, that everyone has my number and they call and I just start yucking it up.
Certainly being available is a key piece to what makes us different from our competition. Being able to reach me or being able to reach an answer is key to who we are and what we do. And so having a live answering service was what was most important to me. Callers won't leave a message. And so I needed somebody to be able to be there and take that call. Otherwise, I need to put something out of office on my text message, or just have the auto reply that says I'm unavailable. I'll call you tomorrow. Some sort of expectation set that you're going to be away and that you are attentive to that call, but when you are back in the office.
Alrighty, John Rabil, sir, what's the time frame do you think?
Yes, sort of what Tiffany said, even for solopreneurs, I think it depends on the business and how you have it set up. Like, I know some solopreneurs who have a fair amount of like systems in place, automated systems using technology, what have you, where they could, step away for easily a week at a time and the business not suffer at all. So I think it really depends on what industry, what your business is, and then what type of systems you may have set up to allow yourself to do that.
Okay,
I
Brian.
think it's okay.
I was going to say, well, and now I have an employee working for me. This is a lot easier. I can go for a week now, and it's okay. Prior to that, when I was strictly solo, I actually had a handshake agreement with somebody else in my industry, who I guess technically was a competitor, but we didn't have any crossover clients. So it's all friendly. It's all good. So, but we had it set up so, like, if there was an emergency and we needed coverage, we would back each other up. So even though we were technically competitors of each other, this was a person who wasn't particularly looking to add new clients to their thing. They were established. And so if I was going to be out for whatever reason, or they were going to be out for whatever reason, we were available to each other's clients to back up if need be. There wasn't ever anything that we had to take advantage of. It was something we put in place that I think would have worked fine if we had needed to. So that's not always going to be a possibility for everybody, but it would have worked fine for us. And I think that's worth looking at. If you have employees, it's a whole lot easier. You can get away. And Mike, not talking to people. One thing I would do if I was going to be on vacation, I'd let all my key clients know, like, hey, I'm planning on taking a vacation. I know them well enough that they know what my circumstances are. At that time, I'm just a solopreneur. They understand that, Brian does need a vacation on occasion. He is a human being. So I would tell them, like, look, I'm going to be out. I will be checking my email occasionally. I'm going to be have my phone on, I'm not going to answer my phone, but if there's an emergency, leave me a message. I'll get back to you. And they were cool about it, and it's, every now and then, yes. Could there be something that happened that really needed immediate attention? Yes. But by and large, I was able to time things where I was taking time away where it didn't interfere with their operations, and I was able to step back for a little bit. So,
all righty. So as we wrap up, we're going to take this over to our operations expert, Stacie. And so we know that what the other panelists have said about the amount of time you could step away, whether it's 48 hours and that's iffy, coming from friends of mine who know me, or 4 days, which is a lifetime. Okay, Stacie, here you go. You should be able to do that. All right, cool. Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
it. We'll talk to you soon. Stacie, very quickly, how do you get the owner to stop having their hand in everything so that they think they have to be connected all the time.
It's difficult of a challenge because I face that challenge. I've been known to have conference calls in the middle of Dollywood, and my father threatened to throw my phone in the pond or something, you know. So I've had to learn to establish these boundaries. I think you have to, one, make it a goal. So my goal for my business is to be able to step away, ultimately to be able to step away for, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks, and up to a month. That's the ultimate goal for me, to be away. Can it run that much? Because it requires you to step psychologically away from my business and know that it's bigger than me. I'm not the whole business, right? The business can run. I've created something that's sustainable without me. And that's part of the ops plans and the succession plans. All of that stuff are tools that help you transition out of that. The other is then you have to force yourself to actually go. You have to force yourself to take the time off as a solopreneur, as a small business owner. And for me, it was like having an extra employee made more responsibility. So you just have to push yourself to say, this is my goal as much as making money or anything else. I want to step away. How am I going to do that? How am I going to make sure I enable that to happen? Because as Kristen said, we could get hit by a bus. Then we're forced to step away, right? So if we voluntarily start to do it through a vacation, it mitigates those potential problems in the long run when it's not a chosen, exit.
There you go.
One suggestion, I gotta say, but the EDs and business owners should write a job description for themselves so they know where their responsibilities end and where their employees' responsibilities begin. And so the employees know what's on them and what's on the owner or the ED. If you have it defined on a piece of paper so all the parts know how they're supposed to work together, it goes a whole lot smoother than otherwise. A lot of owners' tendency is to dive in and try to fix things themselves when it's really they need to step back and tell their employee, you need to fix this because this is your job. So if it's defined, people know what their roles are, where their responsibilities end and begin, it works a whole lot easier. So, okay.
Mr. Tinker HR, I think, sir, that would be a scary proposition if people wrote down all those things. They may be looking for a job the next day, because when you write all those things out, it is a scary thing. You're like, oh, that and that and that and that and that. Oh no, I need to go apply somewhere because that's too many things that I got to worry about. All right, Tiffany Greene, you're out there. One last question, ma'am.
And this question is directed for you.
Oh Lord,
I'm
ladies,
going
we
to
gotta
assign
go.
this question to you as your homework. And perhaps we will discuss it at our next Empower Hour event.
I
Mike
think I'm
looks
not.
like
I
a
think I'm not gonna like this. You know, a person says, "Hey, can I be honest?" Or, "Hey, can I talk to you for a moment?" No. What good follows that? Nothing. Nothing. All right, Tiffany, what is my homework assignment?
What is the purpose of Mike King Biz? And what is your purpose, and what is the alignment between Mike King Biz and Mike King? Are you in the business of giving leaders an opportunity to get business-ish radio opportunity? Are you an influencer? What is your purpose?
Ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of time.
I want to add one more too. What's the impact to the community if Mike King Biz is not Mike King Biz, is not available? What's the impact to the community?
It would be different if he's an influencer versus something else, right, Stacie?
There's a lot of impact if Mike King Biz goes away because he does a lot of good. So I want you to think about that, Mr. King.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Empower Hour. Kristen, how can people find you out there, ma'am?
You can find us at csrerva.com. And we are
And,
on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Kristen, you got to come on the program. And so we've had on the folks, American Heart, talking about hands-only CPR. We need to have you on so that when something happens and we don't stand there looking at that device wondering, what are we going to do? Like, who can read? And nobody can read at the moment because everybody's freaking out.
That's right. The nice thing is that every AED has voice prompts. There are 2 steps to using an AED. Find the power button and do whatever it tells you to do.
There you
Even
go.
I could do that. Stacie Goodman, how can people find you out there?
They can find us at Origamic Solutions with a C, at Stacie Briley Goodman on LinkedIn, Timothy Bazzani on LinkedIn, and Stacie Stargate Briley Goodman, all my names, on Facebook.
And you are the solution shaper.
I'm also Solution Shaper on Instagram. Yeah,
That'd be my favorite right there.
that's your favorite.
Brian Kinzie, how can people find you, sir?
tinkerhr.com, Brian Kinzie, tinkerhr.com, or on LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
Tiffany Greene,
Hashtag empower people. You can find us at empowerpeople.org. That's MPWRpeople.org. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And before we go, just gotta say, Carol says thank you for all the advice. It was wonderful, and she's going to stay the course. And finally, she also says back next time for Mike's homework assignment.
Carol, thank you. I will be back and I'll have it written down because I don't want to leave things dangling when I leave from work. But
Yeah.
Kristen, I'll go for 3 days and you can go for a week. We're gonna try and stretch it out there. All right, folks.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. On the mic, Mike, Kristen, Brian, Stacie, Tiffany. We gotta go, folks. Take care now. Thanks. Bye.